What's the process look like? Do you have a certain strategy of what you post on your personal account and what goes on the brand account, or is it just a bit of a mix, or how do you approach that?
The time split is definitely challenging. Let me actually see if I can find. We have
Oh,
a
that's good.
couple content pillars. You'll
Yeah.
see here that across the 3 pillars, from my account, what I'm really trying to push is this left pillar, this idea of this next gen founder. So insights and
Yeah.
inspiration on life as a modern global entrepreneur. It's also just a mix of really inspirational type content and
Yeah.
motivation, like a lot of that for the founder's psyche and mentality. On the right side,
Yeah.
it's more what we call business matters and founder boosters. So founder booster is doola specific, and business matters is things about businesses. That comes from the company account, but the overall strategy is using my account, which has grown, thinking of it as an amplifier, or really it's another company channel. So anything that comes up from the company, I amplify as much as I can, and then
Yeah.
to use it as a different way to acquire customers. Because I think one thing we've realized is that there's lots of companies, and at the end of the day, I don't think people buy from companies, they buy from people, especially in our space where it's like a very personal, intimate thing where you're stressful, big decision to start a company. So if you can attach that to a person or know the people behind the company, that's the reason why I think you choose a commodity offering at the end of the day.
That makes sense. And how has that evolved? Because this looks one of the most solid approaches that I've seen.
I started posting much more consistently this last year in February or March. And I was posting before, but I think we actually did a little bit of research or strategy and thought, hey, this is an approach we want to take. But I think the biggest thing was just I was really consistent. I didn't miss a day for, I think it was 3 or 4 months in a row. I just posted every single day, weekends included, LinkedIn and Twitter. And I think the process there is I would actually try to batch or create as much as I can in one sitting on the weekends and then post out. Now, I don't do that as much, but I try to at least post one thing every single day, either amplifying the business posts going out or my own posts. And I think you get a little base, like most things in life, you put a lot of effort in and you get like passive income from that growth that you've put in, or passive growth over time, but you don't get that without putting that initial sprint of time or effort.
And what about, because I always think it's like, oh, wow, once a day, besides it's a lot of effort, but also for your audience, right? Do you ever get people say, I'm sick of it or whatever? Or does the algorithm sort that out?
Now, there's definitely people who are like, hey, I want to see less content, or you get roasted in the group chat with your friends. But I think that's why at the end of the day, ultimately it's stuff I'm interested in that I'm posting about. If you really are posting about stuff that, yeah, you can put this plan together, but if you're not actually interested in the stuff, then you're not going to be as interested.
Do you have a certain system or tool or something you use to manage it all?
During the intense sprint, I would have this list in Things 3, which is my note-taking app. And anytime I saw something or thought of something which I thought could be an interesting topic, I would dump it there. So brain dump anytime. And then when you're in the mindset of, hey, I'm posting every day, your mind is open to all these things. It goes from, oh, what am I going to post to I'm posting tomorrow. I need to be on the lookout for things. So you're more aware of things which you could post about and more serendipity. So I would dump it into that list. Now on the weekend, I would sit down and really get into this flow state, or I'd play some music, blast some music in the office, whatever. And I would just go through and draft out the posts and draft them out for at least a week. 2 weeks was a bit cumbersome, but at least for 1 week. And then during the week, every morning, 5 to 15 minutes, I would just copy paste it. I would sometimes use a tool called Typefully or Hype Fury. Sometimes I would just do it in Notion too. And yeah, I would post it to Twitter, then post it into LinkedIn and just click post. That was the process. And then now, when outside of that intense sprint, it's like you put an intense sprint in investing and then you can build off the passive income, or you put an intense sprint into exercise and then you build your cardiovascular base, your exercise base, and you don't need to exercise as much to maintain. In this phase here, I'd say we're there. When doula posts go out, we send them into our Slack channel called Amplify. And when I see them, I'll just quickly go and comment or repost. For my own posts, now it's a bit more ad hoc. If there's something that I do want to post or someone sends me an idea, I'll just post it quickly. More now, it's more amplifying doula content and one-off things that I do versus the longer, intense threads or LinkedIn posts.
And how do you measure the success? Do you have like really strict metrics that you follow, or is it more like you just see, I don't know, messages coming in from people, or like how do you track that?
You can use tools like Typefully shows you this for Twitter, and you can export your posts or just sort by the most engaging posts, and you see what type of content works well. And then there's some content which doesn't work well. And this is the caveat here. Like, what does work well mean? Is it impressions or is it paying customers? Paying customers is hard to track. We want paying customers, but I would do this thing where every month or two, you can just go through and look at what posts did the best, what didn't do well. And then you say, okay, I'm going to do more of these types of posts. And then every month or so, you test different styles too and see what works there. But something someone told me, and it's so true, is literally every 90 days, I'll probably post the exact same thing. And you think like in your head, oh, I already did that. You can't reuse it. Most people never even saw it the first time. So what you get from, again, that intense sprint is you get this massive bank of content that just works well. And you can use it on kind of cruise control. So every 90 days, you can repost something. So it's a bit of a hack at this point, but you don't get that hack without putting in that intense period where you're really testing and committing to putting stuff out daily.
But you mean you literally put out the same thing, or you make a little change to it?
I might tweak the caption because I realized, oh, this might perform better, but literally the same thing.
And what about paying customers? Do you have a way to measure that?
I will get
Business.
DMs on LinkedIn or Twitter saying, hey, I'd like to start a company. And I know that they saw, you can tell like something just came out. They'll literally mention, hey, I saw the post. We do use UTM tracking on our post from the company account. And even I try to when I'm linking from my post to do it. The very tough thing though is the journey is so tough where did they form because of the post, or was the post the 7th reminder and they're like, okay, I'm actually going to go start a company? I think what I've realized is that the absence of doing it doesn't help, but spending 100% of time on it's probably not effective. So there's some happy medium in between where I know doing it's effective. So it's like anything in life, how do you get 90% of the outcome with 10% of the effort? And that's where I'm trying to sit in here is, okay, can we be as focused as possible? Because I've seen, I break it down into, with content, there's 3 funnels. There's user acquisition, investor acquisition, and then talent acquisition. Talent's always looking. Would you rather join a company where you see actively what's happening at the company, or one that's completely silent? People will say, okay, I've been following your content for months, or hey, I wasn't looking, but they're following, and then all of a sudden, hey, this actually looks interesting. So that's talent. Investors, they're always looking too. This is like a cool way to stay top of mind, especially on Twitter. And then customer acquisition, yeah. Again, people aren't actively searching like they would be on Google, on Twitter, or LinkedIn to form a company, but passively in the back of their head, like they're seeing it, and then I get DMs there. So that's the 3 funnels I think about. I know that they're effective for all 3. So it's really about just balancing time, because it can quickly turn into a full-time job, and there's a full-time job with the company itself. And then you maintain this as well.
What is your favorite post ever?
It's probably the first post I did that really blew up. It was on asymmetric upside. And that was just genuinely something I saw the concept. I thought it was really interesting, and I consolidated a few examples I liked, and it really resonated. But yeah, it was one of the first ones that did pretty well. And I find myself talking about it all the time now too.
And how do you know why it did? Could you see why it went viral, or why it got a lot of engagement?
I think it had everything around like a catchy hook, a concept I learned at 28. I wish I learned at 18. So like right away, everyone's, oh, okay, what do you wish you learned 10 years ago? Then it gave a bunch of examples, which quote tweeted other bigger names too. So included other people, gave examples, and had like a little bit of an inspirational message or takeaway. And it just felt very shareable. So people were like, whoa, this is a cool concept. I want to share it with people. And then I think now I can look at other posts and they all follow a similar structure, like catchy hook, some insight that either entertains or educates or has like a shock factor, and then some takeaway where it hits you and you're like, whoa, I want to share that with someone.
That's awesome. I guess the last thing is, if there are other founders who are thinking, oh, I'm not used to like marketing or talking on social media, what would you tell them?
This is an example of something. I saw this image and I loved it. It's my Twitter banner and my LinkedIn banner. It's this image of someone climbing a mountain, and you see all the naysayers, and then you see the land of cool. So it's Cringe Mountain, and then on the other side is the land of cool. This is the case for anyone I've heard who's amassed followers on social or anywhere, is when you start, you're always down here. Like I would get roasted in my group chat for posts I would do, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you know what's funny is at a certain point, maybe it's 10,000 followers or 1,000. At a certain point, you literally go from people look, they're like, oh, that's cringe. But then at a certain point, you hit a number of followers and they're like, oh, that's okay to post because they have this many followers, which is completely backwards. It doesn't make sense. The insight's the insight, but there's this social proof all of a sudden of having that. The hardest thing is just overcoming that initial cringe mountain, that hinge, or that initial bump. But then at a certain point, and I guess this is the world where status seeking monkeys, the followers show some social proof that the person has the ability to post this thing, or it resonates enough. Once you pass that, then it's okay, cool. Now like that person's meant to post this. But it was the same post that you were doing maybe a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, that's great. I had to think of this. This is from Ray Dalio from Principles. He has this quote about, it's a bit similar as the cringe mountain.
Oh, does
I just
really?
posted in the chat. No, it's not the same, but he says, imagine that in order to have a great life, you have to cross a dangerous jungle. You can stay safe where you are and have an ordinary life, or you can risk crossing the jungle, have a terrific life. Like, how would you approach it?
Yeah, I like that. I think one thing which is tough is you obviously have many other things that need to take care of as well. So doing something when You might not have the metrics yet, but you believe it can work. That's always the hardest thing. It's from everyone. It's like, why are you spending time on that thing? Shouldn't you be doing this thing? And all of that is so crushing on your psyche because you're like, yeah, they're actually right, but you just believe in it and know it can work at some point. And the only way to get through that is to fight through that period. There's so many analogies to like exercise or business or even content, but it's similar to if you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to go every day and exercise, I'd say more than 50% of the time, you don't want to on those days. But if you get up and do it anyway, you didn't have much sleep or whatever, you build the identity that you're doing it, and then you're actually guaranteed to see the results. Guaranteed. So I think it's the same thing for the content where you like make that agreement with yourself and you don't break it and you just keep pushing on it, then you will see the results too.